In those days, the crest was in service to the shade, protectors of Heartvale. Knowledge is power. It is an adage known to all who seek power, and all who seek knowledge. In Heartvale, knowledge takes many forms. The scholars of the scriptorium, the pursuers of secrets within the shade, and the orators of the Royal Dispatch Company. As analyst of the crest, it is my duty to record our deeds so that knowledge may pass to the one who follows after me. I have spent days reviewing the old annals, and likely I will spend more days doing so. There is much knowledge to be found in the old tomes of our company. Today, in fact, I discovered a passage in the Book of Kartesh, who was analyst during the captaincy of Berezia Twice Blessed. He recorded a meeting between the captain and a pair of travelers. They claimed to possess knowledge about the target of the company's contract. At that time, they were in the service of a Lord Orion, a member of the Resdinian peerage, who hired the crest to investigate rumors of Resdin's king harboring cultists. The captain paid them for the information, and they took their leave. Before they departed, Kartesh asked them if they believed the rumors about their king. One of them, the minstrel, said, "We have a saying, the king's word is the people's bond." But that's not quite right, is it? If he is a bad king, then it would be better to say the king's word is the people's bondage. Based on my other research, I believe Kartesh spoke with the founders of the Royal Dispatch Company. I find it interesting that this entry speaks of a cult. I also find the minstrel's perspective interesting in the context of the current iteration of the Royal Dispatch Company. Has Ephraim Fellheart become a king in his own eyes? What I wouldn't give for a few moments to speak with him. Welcome back for another episode of Errant Adventures. As always, I'm your game master and solo player, Steve Morrison. On this week's episode, Ben and Ordira interrogate Ephraim Fellheart. Will he tell them what he knows, or will he try to cut a deal? Find out what happens on episode 39, 20 Questions. Last time, Ben learned from Ordira that Ephraim Fellheart, leader of the Royal Dispatch Company, was hiding out in the estate of one of the Council of 12. She witnessed him leaving the Royal Dispatch Company headquarters after a failed attempt to assassinate a number of Shade operatives, herself included. She followed the carriage out of the city to an estate on the outskirts of Heartvale, and she went to Ben because she is concerned about going to the Shade and using Shade resources to kidnap Fellheart from the estate of Lina de Peza. Again, a member of the Council of 12 and a friend to Lady Von Triken, the Red Fox. Ben agrees to help her, having a strong desire to question Fellheart himself, he goes and recruits Arid and Orchid to help them sneak into the estate and kidnap the leader of the Royal Dispatch Company. On their way out of town, Ben and Arid and Orchid make a stop at the scriptorium, where they are intercepted by Master Radborn, who is one of the head scholars of the scriptorium, and seemingly someone who did not think very highly of Ben while he was at the scriptorium. He turns them away, though Ben does pass on the information about Silas Wilberforce's death, and in so doing, Arid and Orchid also discover Ben's birth name of Cassio de Metza. They reach the estate, and they are able to sneak past patrolling guards, climb up to the 3rd floor, and they find Ephraim Fellhart sleeping inside. To their good fortune, Lady DePeza was held up by a council meeting in town, so she was not present for this kidnapping, and they are able to capture him relatively easily, lower him down, and carry him out into the darkness. They are walking away from the wall surrounding the DePeza estate, carrying Ephraim Fellhart. It's deep into the night now, and they have to decide what they're going to do. Hartvale is not so far a walk. They couldn't return before dawn, and as we've seen before, the Shade have secret ways into the city. I guess my question here is, now that they've captured Fellhart, are they going to question him themselves, or are they inclined to take him back to the Crow's Nest and show Iron Gull that they have successfully captured Ephraim Fellhart? Ben, I think, wants to return back to the Crow's Nest and show Iron Gull the work that they've done. But I think Arid, maybe, especially after his interaction with Lephalia, is somewhat concerned about losing control of this situation before they're able to ask the questions that they want. It's not that Arid distrusts the structure of the crest, but I think after so long running from lead to lead and seemingly always being a little bit behind, I think he suggests that they find a safe place to hole up, and they question Fellhart themselves. Now, I don't think I need to roll on whether or not Erdira has access to a safe house somewhere. So I guess the question here is Arid persuasive enough to convince Ben that they should not return back to the Crow's Nest immediately, but should question Fellhart on their own? And I think it's 50-50. And we're going to use the Chaos Factor 7 from the previous scene. And let's see what happens. 72, which is a yes. So yes, Arid is persuasive enough to convince Ben, Orchid, and Erdira that they shouldn't return to the Crow's Nest with their prisoner. That they should try to determine what information he has first, and then they can decide what they want to do with him. So I guess now we have to ask the question, is Erdira's safe house inside the city, or is it outside the city? Because again, much like the Royal Dispatch Company, the Shade travel all over the Vale, and they probably have little way stations here and there where Shade operatives can stop and stay and rest. So is the safe house in the city? I think that is more likely, so I'm going to say it is very likely. Again, Chaos, a rank of 7. Very likely, 69 is a yes. So yes, it is in the city. I think Erdira probably was very supportive of Arid's plan to not return to the Crow's Nest, because I think she also, though maybe she trusts Ben enough that she would come to him with this problem, she also doesn't want to lose control of the situation. For all intents and purposes, Ephron Fellheart is her prisoner. She brought the information to Ben. She, quote-unquote, hired Ben, Arid, and Orchid to perform this job. And so I think in her mind, if she takes Fellheart to the crow's nest, she's going to lose control of her prisoner. So I think she's very supportive of Arid's plan, and she says, yes, I know a place where we'll be safe. It's in the scales, so it's not too far from here. If we hurry, we can be there before dawn, and no one will know that we have made our way in there. Ben, hearing this and hearing Arid's argument for not returning to the crow's nest, says, very well, let us go there. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to take the bound and gagged Ephron Fellheart to Erdira's safe house in the scales. And I think that will be the end of that scene. And we're going to set up a new scene, which is going to be interrogate Ephron Fellheart. I think the chaos rank goes down because they were very successful at breaking into the Depeza estate and kidnapping Ephron Fellheart. So we're going to roll our d10 versus our chaos rank of 6. And I rolled a 7, so that's above the chaos rank, and we are able to carry out this scene without any sort of interruption or alteration. They return to the city, and again, there's a small tunnel that Erdira leads them to, and she presses a stone in the wall, and I think she has to do it with her shade coin as well. And the stone kind of parts a little bit, and there is a small passageway that leads through the wall and into the city. It's early morning. The sun hasn't even begun to rise over the horizon, and the streets are relatively quiet. Quiet enough that no one marks the passage of these 4 individuals and their cargo. As they make their way to a small building, there are a number of apartments there, and Erdira leads them down into a basement. She unlocks the door with a key that she produces from her pocket and ushers them inside. Once she closes the door, she presses her shade coin against it, and it hums for a brief moment. And there is this tingle in the air, and I think Arid turns and looks at it and says, "You know, that is a thing of marvel. I would be interested to know how you are able to channel magic through that, even though I do not sense the talent inside of you." Erdira looks at Arid and smiles and says, "Trade secrets." Arid raises his hands and says, "I understand. I will not pry any further. I will just say it is a marvel, and I am amazed that you are able to do these wonders with just a simple coin." Erdira, again, continuing to smile at him, just pockets the coin and says, "Shall we?" She lights a small lantern inside this basement room, and it's a very Spartan area. There's a cot in the corner. There is a desk with some writing materials on it, and there is a place to hang the lantern to cast light throughout the room. Other than that, there's not a whole lot here. Orchid moves over and grabs the chair at the desk and drags it out, spins it around, and sets Fellheart into the chair. They take special time to bind him there and to make sure that he is unable to see them. I'm sure they probably put a bag or something over his head after they gagged him when they kidnapped him. So it's just a matter of sort of pulling it up a little bit so that they can get to the gag around his mouth and then tying it off so that he's in complete and utter darkness. Orchid then raises an eyebrow and sort of like looks around at the three of them as if questioning who's going to ask the first question. Arid steps forward and he focuses for a moment. There's another sort of shimmer in the room, and Fellheart begins to shudder and jerk against his bonds. And then Arid says, Efrin Fellheart, I want you to understand that you are utterly powerless in this place, and that we are in control of this situation. Yes, I wield the talent, and if you do not answer truthfully, I will wield it against you. Know this and understand where we stand and where you sit. And then he gestures to Ben. Ben is going to step forward, kneel down a little bit, and he says, I want you to understand as well. This place is safe for us. It is not safe for you. When I remove the gag, you may scream if you like. You may call out to whatever gods you believe in. You may even beg for mercy. But I want you to understand this just as clearly as what my friend has told you. No one is coming for you. No one even knows you're gone. So, you will tell me the truth. You will answer my questions, and you will not be harmed. Or you will lie to me, or refuse to speak, and then, unfortunately, this will continue until you decide to tell us the truth. Do you understand? And he reaches up and removes the gag. Now here's the thing. We don't really know about Efrin Fellheart. We've heard a lot about him, but we don't really know who he is as a person. So let's ask the fate chart. Is he the sort of person who would be intimidated by this? He was a poet, which suggests a level of emotional intelligence and understanding of the beauties and horrors of life. But he also has been the leader of the Royal Dispatch Company for many years now, and has seemingly ordered some heinous acts performed. So I think it is unlikely that he is intimidated by this. So let's roll chaos rank of 6. 85. No, he is not intimidated by this. So the gag comes off, and Efrin Fellheart says, I don't know who you are. It doesn't really matter. I understand the terms of this conversation that you have presented to me, and I have my own counter-term. You clearly know who I am. You clearly know the power that I wield. And that must be what this is about. Power. perhaps even knowledge. It is something that I trade in, and I am happy to trade with you if we can set certain guidelines. First, you remove this hood. I will not treat with anyone that I cannot see, for how else will I know if you're lying when I ask you this? If I trade you the information you seek, will you let me go? And then he waits. Ben looks around at the others, and I think he frowns a little bit, as he was not expecting this person to be so calm. I think he looks up, and Orchid is just shaking their head, like, no way are we taking off the hood. Ben says, if you speak truly to us, we will answer truthfully to you. I have no desire to harm you, Felheart, despite the things that you may have done. What I do desire is to right a wrong, a great many wrongs. I will not remove this hood, but I will give you my word that you will not be harmed if you speak the truth. Felheart just half smiles and says, Son, I can tell that you're young by the way your voice quavers when you make those threats. I have been threatened before by far more ruthless and dangerous people than you, I'm sure. Understand that whatever you do to me, I will visit on you and your friends and anyone you know tenfold. And if the end of our interaction is you killing me, I have many people who will take up my cause of vengeance and will hunt you to the ends of the world. Ask your question. Ben stands and he says, Ephraim Felheart, are you in league with the Vidala family and the cult of Vargosh? I mean, I don't know. I legitimately don't know. So I think it's very likely that he is, because why would he have gone to all the lengths that he has? But let's ask the fate chart. So very likely, cast rank of 6. Is he in the league with the Vidala family? 41 is a yes. Okay, so he is in league with them. That's good to know. Why is he in league with them? Well, let's find out if he is going to answer this question truthfully. We're going to persuade with leverage. When you try to convince someone to do or say something for you by using something you have against them or offering to give them what they want, roll plus wily. So Ben has a wily of 1. And I already kind of set this up. I'm going to have Arid attempt to aid by using magic. So I'm going to roll plus arcane to see if he's able to help with this move. 2d6 plus 2. 7 on the dice plus 2 is a 9. So that is a hit. So he's going to give plus 1 to Ben. So that takes our roll up to plus 2 here. Orchid hasn't said anything. Orchid hasn't really done anything to assist here, but this is pretty important. So I'm going to go ahead and roll for Fierce to see if they assist. And I'm going to mark an advancement. I haven't called this out in the last couple episodes, just as I'm getting back into Scup, but I'm going to mark an advancement because I rolled Arcane for Arid in this scene. And I also want to point out that at the end of last episode, he marked a final point of advancement for his track. So he now has 2 advancements that are hanging out. I'm holding off for a 3rd advancement because I want to get him a new adept power. So Orchid is going to use Fierce to sort of, not necessarily rough up Fellheart, but I think just literally place their hand, their massive hand on the back of his neck and just push down and create pressure. This will be +3, 2d6. 6 on the dice, +3 is a 9. So that is going to give Ben another +1. So he's sitting at +3 right now for his Persuade with Leverage. Now, the other question is, should I spend some honor to give myself 1 additional bonus here? I mean, +4 sounds pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to do it. So I'm going to spend a point of honor. And I think what this looks like is Ben says, I will not tell you who I am, but I will tell you who I work for. I think you probably have already guessed it. I serve the crest. Yes, the same crest that struck down your thugs, the stone throwers, in the forests outside of Veilwater. I don't know what game you're playing, Fellheart, but I want to know what your connection is with the Vidala and the cult of Vargosh. Tell me now, and tell me the truth. So we're going to roll at +4. Here we go, 2d6, +4. 5 on the dice, +4 is a 9. So on a 7 and 9, I'm going to pick one of these. They want even more than what you're offering or suggesting. They want concrete proof or upfront payment of the leverage immediately before they do anything. They want something else than what you're offering or suggesting. So I don't think it's they want concrete proof or upfront payment, because the leverage here is we've got you and we're not going to let you go unless you tell us what we want to know. Or they want something else than what you're offering or suggesting instead. Oh, okay. So what if Fellheart says, the crest, huh? Well, that's good to know. I did suspect that was who had found me. You lot seem to have a particular skill for tracking down my operatives and causing trouble. But also, there's an opportunity here. I'm sure you would be happy to gain this information, and I'm happy to share it with you. The question I have for you is, can you be bought? You are mercenaries, after all. And it is the primary attribute of a mercenary to be for sale for anyone and everyone who has the right amount of coin. So tell me this. If I tell you the truth, can I buy your loyalty? Can I buy the mercenary company known as the Crest and set them to my deeds? Or do you have something beyond just mercenary goals? Do you have a conscience? So I think the trick here is that he wants to pay for their silence. He wants to hire them and then basically pay them to do his dirty work. And he won't give them the information unless Ben agrees to that. And of course, Ben's not going to agree to that. But is there a way around this? Ben studies him for a moment and says, we have a contract already, and that contract involves the destruction of the threat that is the Vidala and the cult of Vargosh. So if you are in league with them, if you are a true believer in the cult, I don't think we can reach an accord on this. So we already rolled to decide whether or not he was in league with the Vidala. Is he a true believer, though? Maybe this is a better question, and we're going to ask it right now. So I think it's 50-50, and we've got a chaos rank of 6. Is he a true believer in the cult of Vargosh? 62 is a yes. Yes, he is. So I think he says, "You don't know what you speak of, son. Vargosh is not dead. Vargosh lies in wait, waiting to return, waiting to bring onto this world corruption and decay, as it should be. We have strayed far and wide from the old ways, from the ways of nature, when men lived and fought and died in the woods, in the deserts, in the plains. Yes, we have these pretty stones around us now, these towering edifices, and we call it advancement. But what if all of that came tumbling down? What if the only way to survive was to stand in the middle of an open plain with a stone dagger in your hand and a beast in front of you? The Fae prevented that. They refused to allow us to return to our greatest potential. We can run down a deer. We can run them to exhaustion until they fall and die. That is what it means to serve Vargosh. To be willing to run and run and run until your prey can run no more and collapses. And then when death comes, decay follows after. If you seek to destroy our cult, I will give you no information. Ben looks at the others and then back to Felhart and says, "You have given me all the information I needed to know. You are a believer in this cult. You serve their whims, their desires. That is the information I needed to know. Because now I know that you are our enemy, truly. And not just someone who is using some foolish cultists for their own ends. No, you are mad." Felhart, I think, cocks his head a little bit, looks up at Ben, even though he can't see him, and says, "I'm mad. You're the one who's chasing after powers beyond your understanding." He takes a deep breath. "I can smell it on you still. You have been touched by the artifacts of Vargosh. You have been tainted by them. That corruption, that decay, none can escape it. None can avoid it. It comes for us all. The only way through it is to give yourself to it." Ben puts his head in his hands and just shakes his head and says, "Quite mad." At that point, Erdira steps forward and says, "Is the counselor a part of your cult as well? So here's the thing. I got a success on my roll. But it was a partial success. So Ben got in some information, but he didn't get the information that he directly asked for. But he also got Fellheart talking. Is he likely to answer this question from Erdira? I think so. I think he is likely to answer it, but let's ask the fate chart. 91 is a no. Just barely, but a no. He turns his head to face where Erdira is standing, and he just smiles and says, Lina de Peza is my heart and soul. And when Vargosh rises, and the corruption of the world is complete, she and I will stand on your corpses and laugh. I think Ben is going to try and glean some information here. And he's going to do that by studying a person. He's watching the way that Fellheart reacts and says these things. So we're going to roll plus sly, which is +2. 6 on the dice, +2 is an 8. So on a 7 and 9, I get to ask 2 questions. My options are, what does your character really want? What is your character's current plan? What does your character wish I would do? What are you leaving out? How could I get your character to blank? Can I actually trust your character to blank? And I get to ask 2 of these questions. I think it's what are you leaving out is the first question. And I think Ben and Erdira is savvy enough to recognize that he didn't really answer the question. He said what he thought was going to happen, but he didn't necessarily answer the question. So, is Lady de Peza actually a cultist of Vargosh, or has she just been drawn in by a lover that she met at some point in her life? I'm going to say it's 50-50. Is she a cultist of Vargosh? Chaos rank of 6. 12. Oh. That's an extreme yes. Okay, that's way different than I was expecting, which is why we do this. Is she even more committed to the cult? Could she be the one who actually is in league with the Vidala? Could she be the one who drew in Fellheart? Maybe he didn't start out as this sort of mad servant of Vargosh. Maybe instead of him corrupting her, she corrupted him. Is she a priestess of Vargosh? I mean, I think we got to ask that question now. I think I'm going to say it's unlikely just because since this is a dead god and a cult that has been unknown for a while, I think it's unlikely that there are a bunch of priestesses running around. And I think for sure that the mother of the Vidala is a priestess of Vargosh. So I'm going to say it's unlikely. Chaos rank is 6. 18. Not an extreme yes, but it is a yes. So yes, she is. So maybe she's a lesser priestess. Which I think makes sense because she traveled all over the world going to these horse races, and I'm sure she met all kinds of people and interacted with all sorts of religions and thoughts. And it's very possible that she was inducted into the cult of Vargosh by the mother of the Vidala herself. Okay, well, that changes everything. So that's the first question. The second question is, I don't think we need to ask what the character really wants. I think we've got that. Or even what the plan is. How could I get your character to, give up more information? Because clearly there's stuff that he's holding back. Yeah, how could I get your character to give me the information I need. All right, this is, I think we're just about there. Was Felhart corrupted by Lady DePeza? I'm going to say it is likely. 21 is a yes. Okay. So I think he, despite the sort of madness of being drawn into this cult, I think he truly loves her. And so I think Ben sees something in the way that he is speaking and knows that if they can get to DePeza, then they can use her as leverage to get him to tell them what they want to know about what kind of backing the Vidala have in Davenar, what their ultimate goal was beyond just raising up a dead god and corrupting the world. There's got to be more to it than that, right? So I think Ben looks at Erdira and Erdira nods. Ben gestures to Orchid and Orchid reapplies the gag and drops the hood back down. And then, not so gently, clubs him over the back of the head. And he goes limp. Ben turns and looks at Arid and Erdira. And he says, well, this is an interesting turn of events. It would seem, based on what he said, that Councillor DePeza is in league with these cultists. I get the sense, though, that he truly loves her. And though it may be a cruel tactic, if we were to capture her and bring her here, it is very possible that we would be able to turn him, or at least get him to answer our questions. Erdira sort of shakes her head a little bit and says, I don't know, Ben. Kidnapping Felhart was one thing. Kidnapping a counselor? That's a whole nother problem. Why can't we just do the same thing? Slip in at night? You said she's staying in the townhouse, yeah? I don't know for how long, though. She's going to return back. She's going to find that Felhart is missing. If she really is a cultist, like he is, I don't think she's just going to take that sitting down. She's going to hunt for him. And maybe that's the key. Maybe we set a trap for her. We get her to come to us, and then we capture her. Erdira shakes her head a little bit and says, it's crazy, and we can't do that with just the four of us. I have to go to my aunt. She's been friends with Lady DePeza for years. If Lady DePeza is a cultist of Vargosh, I have to tell her. She has to know. Ben nods, says, I understand. We should bring in outside help. We should go to the crow's nest. It's time to inform Iron Gull. Arid, considering all of this, says, it would seem that is true. Though I am concerned. We do not know what a cultist of Vargosh will do. If she is backed into a corner, we do not know what powers she possesses. Lord Defara, could he have been a cultist? He certainly was in possession of an artifact. If he was also a cultist, we saw what he did. Is it possible that she will do the same thing? Yes, this is very dangerous. And now we have a prisoner that we have to worry about. Ben nods and says, I'll go back to the crow's nest. Arid, you and Orchid remain here. Guard the prisoner. Erdira, you go speak with your aunt, but and I'm very sorry for this. Are you sure that she isn't also in league with them? Can you be sure that she isn't a cultist as well? Erdira looks at him and she says, I'm going to pretend you didn't say that. Ben opens his mouth and she holds up a hand and says, no, I know my aunt. A lot better than I know Lady DePeza. There is no way that she believes in some dead god of corruption and decay. Everything she's done has been to fight against him, to fight against this cult. Ben nods and says, I understand that sentiment, but in fact, what she has done is gather artifacts to herself. We have been told that those have been hidden away in a vault, never to be seen again, but... And again, I apologize. I don't want to call into question your familial relationship. But what if she's using us all as an excuse to draw these artifacts together for some greater purpose? You have to admit, it needs to at least be considered. Erdira, hearing that, sort of pales and looks around and she says, I don't... I'm... Oh, why? Why did you have to say that, Ben? Now I don't know who to trust. And I'm afraid to say that you might be right. She has always been a powerful sorceress. And she has protected this city, so I trust her. I want to believe in her, but I guess I don't know for sure. I guess I'm gonna have to go find out. Erdira takes a deep breath. If she is a cultist as well, this place isn't safe. She'll come here, and she'll take Felhart back. She might even do that anyways. But we can't really move him now. It's starting to get light out. People will notice if you're carrying a body through the streets. Then perhaps you should wait until I've gone to the crow's nest. We can go together, and then we can go see your aunt together. Erdira looks at him and says, you know, if she is a cultist, she'll probably kill me. And if you're with me, she's going to kill you too. Ben nods and says, I'm willing to take that risk, if you are. It'll be better when we have the rest of the crest on our side. The Red Fox is powerful. The Shade are powerful. But the crest can withstand. The crest can survive. Erdira finally nods and says, all right. It's a deal then. We go first to the crow's nest, and then we go talk to the Red Fox. Ben turns to look at Arid and Orchid and says, we don't know what powers these cultists possess. We've seen already that the Vidala have magic and the ability to track prisoners. Be careful. If there's any sign of trouble, get out. And Erdira says, oh, there's a hidden tunnel over here, and she goes to the wall and shows them where there's a passage that leads out. Says it comes out next to a butcher's shop a couple storefronts over. That should be a safe way out. Assuming those who are coming for you don't know the secret ways. But this is my safe house. Not many people in the Shade know about it. Really only my aunt and myself. So unless she's coming for you, you should be able to get out that way. I'll make sure to seal the door on my way out. That'll give you time and a warning if someone's trying to sneak up on you or break it down. Arid looks at the two of them and then looks to Ben and says, be careful. Like you, I do not want to believe that the Red Fox could be part of this madness. But if she is, be wary. Be cunning. Be smart. Survive. Ben nods to him, turns to Orchid and says, "Keep him safe, won't you? Keep them both safe." Orchid pats their axe and says, "Honestly, if somebody comes busting through that door, I don't know that I'll be running anywhere. Haven't used Bone Eater for a little while. Starting to get a little hungry." Ben chuckles, and then turns to Ardura and says, "Are you ready to go?" She nods and says, "I think so." "All right. Good luck, everyone. And may Lupacos watch over us as we hunt for these cultists." Thanks for listening to Errant Adventures, and thank you so much to Syrinscape for the lovely ambient sounds and music throughout the episode. If you enjoyed the show, please tell anyone and everyone in your life about it. And if you want to support the show directly, leave me a review or buy me a coffee at coffee.com/errantadventures. That's ko-fi.com/errantadventures. If you want to interact with me, my handle on Instagram and Twitter is @errantsolopod, or you can email me at errantsolopod@gmail.com. I also post short fiction and campaign-related materials on my website, errantadventurespod.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.